Hey, it's Isa and Mike from the Q Rush Hour from Q Radio 105.1, and this is Expert Q&A. And today we got Department of Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo-Puyat with us.
Hi, good day. Hi, Isa. Hi, Mike. And good day to everybody listening to your show.
Thank you so much. All right, we have a lot of questions actually, but we're super excited to know more about the current situation of tourism in the Philippines, of course. So let's get started. Secretary Bernadette, back in September 2021, you announced that more than 50% of the country's tourism workers were vaccinated against COVID-19. So right now, as of today, what do the numbers look like?
We've actually vaccinated, as of November 5, we've already vaccinated 70.5% of all our tourism workers. But then when it comes to the delivery of the vaccines, we've already delivered all the vaccines for all the tourism destinations. So it's right now up to the LGU to vaccinate. So sometimes it takes them a long time because they need health workers to vaccinate the people, but at least we're at 70.5 and everything has been delivered. Like in the case of Boracay, we only didn't deliver for tourism workers. We even delivered for the residents and including the 12 to 17 population. Kasi like, for example, like island destinations like Boracay or even Siargao,
Yes.
You just can't limit it to tourism workers. It has to be the whole island. So in Boracay alone, we've already vaccinated about 99%. Some are on their first dose and then some are fully vaccinated, but we expect it with the residents, it's also close to that number already. The governor already said that if they already are 100% fully vaccinated, that he will waive the RT-PCR in lieu of Vax card. So that's what he's waiting for lang. That the residents plus tourism workers are all 100% fully vaccinated.
Thank you so much for the update, Sec Berna. Actually, I want to go back real quick lang. Kanina you mentioned the lack of vaccinators. Is that really the biggest problem right now or hindrance?
It's probably when it comes to tourism workers, we're quite lucky.
Yes.
Because they want to be vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
There's no vaccination hesitancy. Of course, we hear in other sectors there is some, but when it came to tourism workers, walang vaccination hesitancy. For example, when we had an ECQ here in Metro Manila, that's what the tourism workers were asking for, to be vaccinated. So it was quite easy to vaccinate. So when we switched to an alert level system, alert level 4, at that time, 99% already of the tourism workers were already vaccinated in NCR. Wow. And under the alert level system, you cannot open the hotel or even a restaurant if your employees are not fully vaccinated. So because you can only also accept dine-in if they are also fully vaccinated. We have, as of now, like Baguio City, already 100% vaccinated, our tourism workers. San Vicente. In Bohol, it's about 80% vaccinated already. I'm looking, CAR is 95.39%. I mentioned already San Vicente, Palawan. We have Mountain Province at 95%, Coron at 91%. I'm sorry, Bohol pala is at 95.4% already. So, the vaccines are there and it's just, we hope that, because sometimes the problem is, for example, the only ones that can vaccinate are health workers.
Yes.
But sometimes if they're exposed, they have to quarantine. So that's, I think that's the problem. But we see at least it's already at, as of November 5, 70.5%.
That's a great number. Yeah.
Clearly, we're readying ourselves to the surge of travelers here in the Philippines, mostly domestic travelers. In fact, when I go on social media, I see all of my friends in Boracay already. And it's good that you mentioned, nga po, Secretary, that Boracay and other locations are looking into the possibility of waiving the RT-PCR test in favor of an eVac certificate. In line with that, and I guess in preparation for that, With reports that the effectiveness of a vaccine wanes over time, and with priority groups even possibly being given booster shots as early as this month, moving forward and showing the vaccination cards, will the date of the vaccination be considered as a factor?
It's not being discussed right now, the date of the vaccination, but you have to understand our tourism destinations were vaccinated later because we focused on NCR.
Yes.
And in fact, I'm so grateful to Sec Galvez and Sec Dizon of the vaccine. They're the vaccine czars because even if our tourist destinations were not a priority, July, August, September, they gave vaccines to these tourist destinations. At that time, the priority was only really NCR plus 8, but still they gave vaccines. But marami naman bakuna eh. Tuloy-tuloy naman ang pagdating ng bakuna. In fact, as I've said, even in Boracay, we've already delivered the vaccines for ages 12 to 17. Of course, they're not tourism workers, but as we've said, it's all there already, and then the supply of vaccines are continually coming. And in fact, just recently in the news, there's already a budget for boosters. So the vaccines are there, the supply is there, and what is important is the tourism workers want to be vaccinated.
Secretary, in line with that, po, even though a lot of places are slowly transitioning into focusing on vaccination certificates over an RT-PCR test, some locations are still requiring it as well.
Correct.
It has been reported that the DOT is heavily considering subsidizing COVID tests. Can you tell us more about the recently rolled out free swab test for domestic travelers?
Yeah.
Is there a daily cap of approved applicants,
Yeah.
and how long will this be available for us?
Yes, as early as December, we've already been subsidizing. Normally, an RT-PCR swab test would cost about 3,000 at least. And then I think, I don't know if it became lower for the others, but that's quite expensive. So we were able to subsidize. Initially, we had with PGH, so it came out only at 950 pesos. And with PCMC, it came out to only 750 pesos. But last November 1, we announced that we are fully subsidizing because PCMC gave us a very good price. It's only 1,000, but they put a cap of 350 per day. The reason being is the results come out in 24 hours. They
Correct.
said that if they accept more, then the results will not come out in 24 hours. They didn't want to suffer the result time. Diba some, I'm sure both of you have already traveled. Some, diba, if you want it mabilis, they charge more than 1,000 or 2,000. So at least ito, it's free and it comes out in 24 hours. But we're looking at other tie-ups with other government agencies or anyone that can match the 1,000 pesos that PCMC is giving us so that we can subsidize more. Syempre, not subsidize, yeah, we're giving it all for free already. But I have to remind people because people still ask me, pwede ba daw yon kahit na hindi turista? Of course, this is only for tourists because we are the Department of Tourism. And this is in tandem with the TPB. It's a TPP that is the one that's subsidizing. And of course, you have to show that you are in a DOT accredited hotel.
Yeah.
By the way, all hotels should be DOT accredited because they're not allowed to open by law and by IATF if they are not accredited. And they have to show that there's a return ticket so that we can prove to COA that they are indeed tourists. Because I'm getting a lot of questions kung pwede raw hindi turista. But sorry kasi we're the Department of Tourism, so these are only for tourists. I also have had questions na kung pwede raw mag-abroad daw sila and they're going to use the subsidy. Hindi pwede because this is for domestic tourism. When you go abroad, that's not for the Philippines, that's for abroad. So I just have to clarify. It may seem these questions are parang are not supposed to be asked, but people still ask me these questions. So I wanted to clarify that.
Thank you so much for clarifying, Sec Puyat. Actually, yeah, to summarize lang, so these subsidized tests are for domestic travelers only.
Domestic travelers only, yes.
Correct. All right. So I am one of the very few benefits, like Puyat, of COVID-19 in relation to tourism is it actually paved the way for several ecotourism sites to heal. So are there actually any plans in place to ensure that this recovery is not hindered and that sustainable ecological tourism is achieved?
Even before the pandemic, we've already been implementing, we've sustainability was already very important to the Department of Tourism. If you recall, 2018, we closed our top tourist destination, Boracay,
Yes.
for 6
Mhm.
months so that we could just simply implement environmental laws. I think we're the only one who did that in the whole world. Imagine closing the top tourist destination of the country just so that we could implement environmental laws. And
Yes.
back 2018, we already had the ANAHO certificate. We give that certificate. We have an ANAHO certificate award for sustainable, for hotels that implement sustainability. We also had pre-pandemic the Save Our Spots, because it's not only up to the hotels to implement sustainable practices, but we also want responsible tourists. So that was always our goal for sustainable tourism. And of course, we continue that even during the pandemic.
Correct. That's really great to hear. Now, Sec Buyat, the Tourism Promotions Board has also been very innovative in crafting safe travel initiatives. In fact, motorcycle tourism is even an avenue that is being explored. So how do you think this pandemic will alter how we conduct and promote tourism in the Philippines moving forward?
Yeah, we had 2 surveys with the AIM. Asking first, it was last May and the last quarter of last year, so we had 2 surveys. We wanted to see first that if people still wanted to travel during the pandemic, and what are they looking for. Of course, we were happy to note that people still want to travel even during the pandemic. Even as early as last May, it came out that they wanted to travel even in the absence of a vaccine. So people want to travel. Number 2, 96% said that they wanted health and safety protocols in place. It's more important for them. Of course, it's already a given that the country is really so beautiful, but 96% were looking for certified disinfecting protocols, health and safety. That's what we did. We had to create the handbook for COVID because it didn't exist. And nobody in the world had that because we were all in the same boat. In fact, when we would have meetings with my fellow tourism ministers, we were comparing notes because nobody had a handbook on how to deal with COVID. So now our accreditation includes health and safety. It's in tandem with the BOQ or with the Department of Health and the WHO. Last September, we were granted the safe travel stamp by the World Travel and Tourism Council. That's the only, probably the only private sector. So we have the government, but we have, of course, we meet with the tourism ministers, but we also have the counterpart, the private sector, which is the WTTC. And all our health and safety protocols pass their standards. So it passes global standards. So to this day, we've already given the WTTC safe travel stamp to more than 200 hotels and to 3 destinations, Boracay, Baguio, and Ilocos Norte. So we hope to be able to give this to more tourist destinations and to grant this to more hotels. And in that survey, I go back to the survey, we were asking, what are you looking for? They wanted to see open air, open space, culture, and heritage, which I think I'm so happy to see that people are more interested in our culture, our heritage. That's why you have Intramuros right in the middle of Metro Manila. And you have that all, open air, open space, and the culture is so rich. And then people now want to travel smaller groups. They don't want big groups anymore. So they want to travel with their family. And another winner was farm tourism. Now people want to see where their food comes from.
Oh,
So that was our 10th tourism product. In fact, when I came from the Department of Agriculture. I was
yes.
there for 12 years. And when I entered the DOT, I'm just so happy that it became our 10th tourism product, farm tourism. And it was actually passed into law by Senator Villar
Mhm.
last 2016, but we were only able to make it a tourism product when I entered. And it's good because farm tourism not only helps our farmers, but they're able to sell their produce.
Correct.
And it's a good tourism product because people want to go harvest and they want to see where their food is coming from. And then of course, hindi lang yung motorcycle but also biking. If you notice, di ba, more people are into biking now.
Yes.
So in fact, I started biking every tourist destination I go to. Mind you, before the pandemic, the last time I was biking was I was in grade school. So that was a long time ago. So it tama pala, no, once you know how to bike, di ba, they always say it's like riding a bike. So when I started biking in Intramuros, those bamboo bikes, oh, you should do it. It's really so much fun biking around Intramuros. It's really, you get to see the place, it's exercise, and it's eco-friendly. And of course, motorcycle tourism, a lot of the groups, they want to travel, di
Yeah.
ba? They go around and visit the country. So the TPB has been promoting that because TPB is the marketing arm of the DOT. So a lot of, kasi nandiyan na yung pandemic. Of course, nobody wanted COVID. Nobody wants COVID. Nobody wanted it to happen. But we always just try to look at the good side of it.
Yes.
In fact,
Mhm.
a lot nga, after Boracay, we would have a hard time with the carrying capacity. Kasi only Boracay has a carrying capacity. But because of COVID, all the other tourist destinations, parang pasay na yung mass tourism. It's always now, it's high value, low density. So again, balik tayo sa sustainable tourism. And people were able to see that nature healed. It's more beautiful than ever. In fact, some of the people have been telling me they've been seeing sea creatures that they last saw when they were kids. So at
Oh,
least nature healed, and we just hope that this continues. And of course, the Department of Tourism naman will always promote sustainable tourism and inclusive tourism. We want also sana, and that's what we've been doing na the hotels, they buy also from the indigenous tribes, they buy from the locals. So that whenever the tourism in a particular place prospers, we want the locals to also benefit from it.
I love that so much. Actually, Sec Berna, I'm actually convinced. I felt a little bit of like a spark of optimism, no? And I'm sure that everyone who can hear that will also feel the same way. But yeah, also ultimately, I feel like you just convinced me to learn how to ride a bike.
No, it's scary at first. In fact, the first bike they gave me was for a kid. Kulang na lang yung 3 wheels. But because I got a fat bike na maliit na parang I could easily yung parang my just in case I'd fall, but it's easy. It's true. It's like riding a bike. It's so easy, and it's nice. I've been biking for around Intramuros, in Negros Oriental. I went biking, and other places I've been. It seems that every time I visit a tourist destination, they prepare a bike na for me. Of course, in Baguio. But in Baguio, I didn't realize because of the altitude. So I was biking with Mayor Magalong. It was like early morning. And then, oh my God, the bike trail was up and down. And diba, because of the altitude, I was out of breath in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So ang mas mahirap, but it's nice. It's a nice it's exercise, and
Yes.
it's really the best way to see a tourist destination.
Correct.
Secretary Puyat, as you mentioned, the DOT is continuing to innovate in many, many ways. You've adapted to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think one aspect that you clearly place a lot of resources on is on health and safety.
Yes.
In fact, Senator Grace Poe previously stressed the importance of having basic health facilities readily available in the country's top tourist spots in preparation for the expected inflow of domestic travelers. Would you say that this has been heavily considered by the DOT? And would you also agree that health
Mm.
facilities are now an integral part of tourism as well?
Even before the pandemic, that's always been an integral part. In fact, pre-pandemic, we already had a tie-up with the Makati Med. I have to explain, the DOT's mandate is actually for promotion, branding, and for accreditation. Now, unfortunately, the provision of hospitals is not under the mandate of the DOT. So we asked the help of the Makati Medical Foundation. And because of their help, that was really pre-pandemic, there's now a hospital, the Siriaco Tirol Hospital is now a tertiary hospital. So that has always been our prime concern, especially during the pandemic, but even before the pandemic. And then we are working also with the private sector if we could also do the same for Siargao. Right now, we're heavily banking on the private sector with regards to mga tertiary hospitals. So parang just in case syempre any emergency, there's a hospital. So since it's not the mandate of the DOT, we've been asking the help of our private sector to help us, and we're just so grateful to the MVP group for providing that assistance. But of course, as I've said, 96% nga, di ba, are looking for health and safety protocols.
Yeah.
We work closely with the different LGUs to implement yung dapat, hindi na kasi pwede just because you're fully vaccinated or you're negative for the RT-PCR that you can go your pre-pandemic ways na partying, no masks, etc. It's quite important because it's the LGUs that will implement this minimum health and safety protocols. And it's been shown talaga eh. Like we personally, I've been going around the country since the height of the pandemic, since last May or June of 2020. When people were locked down, I had no choice. I had to go around the country to work with the LGUs on how to reopen safely. And I never remove my mask unless, of course, I'm eating. Kasi syempre, you have to wear a mask when it makes sense. And I really cannot stress enough because a lot of people think na, oy, ang baba na ng cases sa Metro Manila. Uy, pwede na mag-travel. It's really, again, it's like sustainable tourism. It's not only up to the local government, the national government to implement it. We need responsible travelers. And now being a responsible traveler, you also have to make sure you also follow the minimum health and safety protocols. Correct. So it now my health aspect, we really rely on the traveler. So whenever nga people tell me, will it still be fun when I'm wearing a mask? Of course, you'll still have fun. It's still more fun in the Philippines, but it's safe.
Yun. That's great. Now, Sec Berna, we want to know also, because the US just recently open to, as a lot of people may know now, currently foreign tourists are still not allowed to fly in here in the Philippines, only long-staying visa holders. So are there any plans of amending this soon? And is there actually a timeline that you can share with us and the protocols?
It's quite hard to give a timeline. The US actually, before November 8th, was already accepting Filipinos without vaccine cards. But I think November 8th, they broadened this. And then you have now to be fully vaccinated starting November 8th with certain vaccines.
Yes.
And then you also have to have a negative RT-PCR. But before November 8th, walang ganon. In fact, they became stricter when it came to the Philippines. Right now in the Philippines, the Department of Tourism is a member of the IATF, but we're one of the many members. We're more than 20. And we've always been pushing for less, as early as May, we've already been pushing for less quarantine days, especially for fully vaccinated.
Yes.
Now, from 10 days, it has been reduced to 5 days. But if you're coming from a green country, the green country is actually decided by, it's based on the CDC, the US CDC. Yes. They rate kung ano yung low risk country, medium country, high risk country. So that changes every 2 weeks kung ano yung nasa green country. When you're coming from a green country, that's 0 quarantine. But if you're coming from a yellow country, that's, I think, at least 5 days. So at least that's less than the 10-day quarantine. Of course, we're still hoping that since in the NCR alone, we are already vaccinated, 88% fully vaccinated. And first dose is already 97%. I think it would be up to the vaccination rate of the whole country. We're hoping to vaccinate more people so that we could, I think what is more important, similar to our domestic tourism or our tourist destinations locally, they only accept fully vaccinated if the population itself is also fully vaccinated. So I think it's the same. But kami in the Department of Tourism, we're always pushing for less quarantine days, especially for our balikbayans, di ba? Kasi that's the time they come home this Christmas. When it was reduced to 5 days, a lot have already been planning. But of course, we are always pushing for less quarantine days. But eventually, we want travel to be less restrictive na as long as you're fully vaccinated, you're good to go.
Secretary Puyat, I just have to say, your enthusiasm and passion for promoting tourism here in the country is very infectious. And in fact, something that encourages me or makes me want to travel more too, which reminds the same feeling I get whenever I watch TV and I see those DOT commercials, like for example, yung hashtag Ganda Mo Pinas. Can you tell or share some of the campaigns you have launched to further boost tourism in the country? How difficult would you say it has been to launch them, considering the effect the pandemic has had?
Yeah, the first one was actually, it didn't really look like a tourism ad. The first one was with a smile with Ellie Buendia. We launched that at was that April or May? We were showing the hardships of all our frontliners, not only in the hospitals but also in the grocery, those delivering, etc. And then that was the song of Ellie Buendia with a smile. And we're forever grateful to Ellie Buendia because when I asked him if we could use his song, he didn't charge us because he just wanted to. He said, you know what, Berna, I just want to help the country. And if my song will help, just use it. So we had With a Smile. And the one who sang that was Isa Lorenzo. Her dad and her lolo are also doctors. So she comes from a family of frontliners. And then the second one was a song by Bamboo. Pinoy Ako. We also showed how all over the world it's the Filipinos taking care of the whole world because diba, all over the world they're looking for Filipino nurses. Yes. Now you might ask, that's your Department of Tourism. Why did you show the frontliners? Why did you show the nurses all over the world? Because we really believe that it's a given already na magandang Pilipinas. It's a given. But I think what sets us apart are the people. Diba, all over the world, kaya in demand ang Pilipino because diba, iba yung Filipino brand of service. Yes. Iba yung in fact, I know a lot of people, in fact, the late Anthony Bourdain, his second trip to the Philippines, it was kept secret, was because he had a Filipino nanny. And bilib na bilib siya. He went to the Philippines because he loves his Filipino nanny. Na ang bait-bait raw. I mean, such a good person. In fact, I go all over the world. And again, as I say, given na maganda the country, but it's really the people that attracts our Filipinos, OFWs all over the world that makes the foreigners come to the Philippines. In fact, I met the Saudi tourism minister, and he loves the Philippines because his right hand is a Filipino. And he always says, you know, if these Filipinos are the ones that they are actually really our tourism ambassadors, our OFWs. our tourism ambassadors, they
Yes.
are in demand abroad, and it makes people want to come to the Philippines. So that's why our first two campaigns was to honor our frontliners domestically and our frontliners abroad. And then the next one was Wake Up in the Philippines. It was more of, we didn't really know how long the pandemic would last. But a lot of people, di ba, were dreaming, we were in quarantine and we were dreaming na, nako, I want to wake up in a tourist destination.
Yes.
So that was Wake Up in the Philippines. What we did was, by the way, the first two pala ads, the With a Smile and the one of Bamboo, that was all, kasi syempre, it was quite impossible to take videos. That was all, we asked videos from nurses abroad, etc. So that was all given because we couldn't take videos. So those were all real life videos of what was happening all over the country and all over the world. The Wake Up in the Philippines campaign naman was like a rehash of our previous videos kasi at the time there were quarantine restrictions, we couldn't leave the house. So that was the dream of everybody at the time. They want to wake up in a tourist destination. And then after that, when there were already travel restrictions were started to ease, tourism destinations were starting to open, we had the Have a Safe Trip Pinas, because we wanted to show that even if you follow the minimum health and safety protocols, you can still enjoy the tourist destinations. In fact, we had this ad. The song was the one of the Basil Valdez song. I don't know, maybe you're too young for that. the you you I can't sing it and you don't want me to sing it, but there's a portion there that it's your smile, your face,
Yes.
your lips that I miss.
Mhm.
Because diba, right now it's like when you go to a tourist destination, the tourism workers are wearing masks. And diba, that's what we miss but then we just look at the eyes, and what we were saying is, more than visiting a tourism destination, you're giving livelihood to all these tourism workers. We will have you send that. It was more of we were showing Boracay, and it was a couple, etc. And then they were getting married in Boracay. It was like a love story, and in the end, the love story was actually a love story with all these tourism workers, that every time you visit a tourist destination, it's the one that smiles the most are the ones that have lost their jobs and now have their jobs back because tourism has restarted. And yun, we had, yun na nga, More Fun Awaits. And the recent one was It's More Fun with You.
Mhm.
It's with everybody thinks that I was the one who made the storyline, because well, at least my friends know kasi that I'm in love with my dog Biggie. And I think during the pandemic, diba, that the people became plantitos, plantitas,
Yes,
or became pet owners.
correct.
And then and I'm one of them. I mean, I've had my dog for the longest time, but then of course we got closer because of the pandemic kasi siya yung kasama ko palagi. And the last commercial is It's More Fun with You. It's a girl who's so excited that she can finally travel, and then she starts traveling with her dog. And that's really a dog. The dog's name is Tuna. Tuna is a surfing dog in La Union. So you could see the girl surfing in La Union with Tuna, the surfing dog. Kasi we wanted to show that it's more fun with you. More of our tourism destinations miss all of you.
Yes.
And traveling is more fun with family, with friends, and even your dog. Because love comes in many, many forms. And even Filipinos, diba, we like traveling with our loved ones, even with our dogs. So that's more of the last campaign. It's More Fun with You shows that we're encouraging you to travel. Now the travel restrictions it's easier now to travel. Last year, would you believe, even if I'm already a government official, it was so difficult for me to travel because I had to show a negative RT-PCR, a PNP clearance, an LGU clearance, an affidavit of undertaking. Ang dami kong in fact, there were certain tourist destinations I couldn't visit because they wanted me to quarantine for 14 days. So at least now, as we are vaccinating more and more of our tourism workers, they're accepting already negative RT-PCR in lieu of negative RT-PCR, and we've subsidized already the negative RT-PCR tests. So it's easier to travel. We're now encouraging you, please travel, because traveling, we had 2 surveys, as I've mentioned. We asked them, why do you want to travel? And all of them said they want to travel for their sanity.
Yes.
So you travel for your sanity, your mental health, but at the same time, when you travel, you help those that have lost their jobs.
I love that so much, Kuya. Sobrang nainganyo ako to start traveling, and I hope all of our listeners or viewers also feel the same way. Unfortunately, we don't have more time. Bitin sobra,
Kuya. We'll send you all kasi since you're also a radio station.
Yes.
I don't know, baka it's my age lang the Ellie kasi is my age, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Smile, but I think the younger people naman know the song With a Smile. Yes. And then the second was Pinoy Ako. I mean, it's kind of an anthem, di ba? Hoy, Pinoy Ako. And then the Basil Valdez song. The Basil Valdez song was sung by Army Milyare of Up Dharma Down. So, ang ganda the way she made it her own. So, I hope that, makakala kasi ninyo, puro age ko lang. And then the last one, was It's More Fun With You, was also by River Maya, Hinahanap-hanap Kita.
Wow. We're looking forward to it, Kuya. Yes. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing with us all of the campaigns that DOT has. I'm sure that a lot of our listeners, and me personally and Mike, I'm sure also feel the same way na parang excited na kami mag-travel. Yes. But maraming salamat. It's been an honor talking to you the past few minutes. Again, this has been Expert Q&A with the DOT or Department of Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo-Puyat. Maraming salamat.
Yes. Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me, even if you're both the age of my children. You still invited me. So I hope I was able to relate to your listeners.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much, Secretary.
Thank you very much. Stay safe.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Stay safe.
Thank you.